Greetings, viewers, and welcome to the Pitso Podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking about referendum. You remember the last time Botswana had a referendum was 2001, which is 25 years ago. It's a long time, and I'm sure some people might not be aware of what happened in the last referendum. That is why Pitso Podcast exists. We exist to use our past to make sense of the present and hopefully shape the future. Today, we are fortunate we have a legal mind to come and assist us understand and unravel the referendum. I'm going to give her the opportunity to greet us and introduce herself. Ma, you are welcome to Pitso Podcast.
Ke a leboga.
Emma,
Ra. Ke bidiwa Isabella Mathiba.
Emma.
Ke mmueledi. I have been practicing since 2007.
Okay,
I initially started off as a prosecutor in the
okay,
Directorate of Public Prosecutions, where I worked for about 5 years.
okay.
And then from there, I moved to the Legal Aid Botswana for 7 years. And then I left again to go to the Attorney General's chambers from 2019 until 2022.
Okay,
And then since 2022 up to date, I've been doing just consultancy work and advancing constitutional literacy work.
okay.
Um,
I think your introduction was on the formal side. We want to know you even more than that. Gore Isabella ke mang? O goletse kae? Akere we want to know you. Gore, what made you the woman you are today?
Ke tsaletswe ko Mahalape.
Emma.
Me, I grew up in Gaborone.
Okay,
I went to school, go Ithuteng Primary,
okay,
then moved to Bokamoso, CJSS back then.
okay.
Akadinedi Bidua. And then from there, I went to GSS.
okay.
And then served TS mo Gaborone.
You are a city woman.
I'm a city woman, hey, through and through.
Eh,
And then from there in 2001, that is when I then went for further studies in South Africa, where I got my degree, my LLB degree.
okay,
Like you are saying, I grew up in Gaborone. One thing se ke itseng gore growing up used to inspire me was to hear on radio go ntse gote Chief Magistrate Mathiba this
okay.
o na tlhola yana, and in my heart I used to say one day I want to hear my name as well on radio gote Magistrate Mathiba jana le jana. So I believe that was the first time that this love ya molao started with me.
Okay.
Era.
When you name, are you related? It's just
We are not related.
It's just the name.
We are
Mathiba.
not related. And somebody actually told me, or we look alike, but we are not related.
Okay.
Er.
When reading your profile, I realized that you once worked in Maung, and then what I saw is that you did a lot of public education, Kotla meetings. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I concluded that maybe that's the reason why you still want to educate the public about.
Indeed.
Yes.
When I was in the legal aid Botswana, in legal aid Botswana, it has a mandate, their public legal education.
All right.
It's part of their mandate.
Okay.
At least the last time I checked
Okay.
their mandate. And one of the first things that I started doing in 2012 when I joined Legal Aid Botswana was to do public legal education on radio. I used to hold the Wednesday breakfast show segment for Legal Aid Botswana every Wednesday, I believe, for about a year and a half. I believe that is where my love for teaching law actually came from, because when you are in that space, you need to bring yourself down to the level, the lay person, and be able to explain things in lay terms so that they fully appreciate the concepts of Samalao as much as possible. So I believe that's where my first passion, my first love for public legal education came.
Okay. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the law with Isabella. What is it about? I know it's public education, So can you talk a little bit about that? What inspired you to break the law down for us mere mortals?
Er, as I indicated earlier on, I had the passion from my time at Legal Aid Botswana. And then I believe there was a point that I was intimidated about going into public and speaking about these things. But as you grow older, you realize, you know what, there's so much need, and you have the resources, you have the knowledge. Why don't you facilitate your compatriots? So one of the things that that actually drew me towards now ending up establishing the law with Isabella Mathiba was when this talk about the Constitutional Court and constitutional review, holistic review started, the debate around that started just building up. And I remembered from the time of the Dubetalo Commission that a lot of Botswana who were consulted back then, they didn't fully appreciate what is in their constitution, such that when they were being asked how they would what type of changes they would want to see in the constitution, most of them, they weren't fully addressing what exactly it is about the constitution that needed to be done. And then there was also that whole debate about there being an agenda ya gore dirwa gore the death penalty in the unconstitutional be striker of our laws. I took it upon myself to explain how our constitution is different to the laws of the other. The right to life in our constitution is different to the right to life in other constitutions, especially in South Africa, where the case of State versus Makwanyane, the Constitutional Court then abolished the death penalty. The difference between our constitution and theirs is that ours is it has a proviso sort of a provision where the constitution itself covers or saves the death penalty. So for as long as it's in the constitution, the constitution itself approves of it, it cannot be declared unconstitutional. So that was when I realized, you know what, I really need to do this. And I then decided I need to start teaching people, just do a bit of my part in constitutional literacy.
Yes, as Pitso Podcast, I think that's what attracted us to you, because we realized that you are doing what we also love doing, educating the public. And you have chosen an area that most of us are afraid of, ignorant of. We need to be comfortable with our constitution. So from your Maung experience and what you are doing now, the gap in understanding, how big is it? Do you think we are not doing enough as a country to help ordinary citizens to understand the founding law of their country?
I've seen a few lawyers who are doing work around teaching people about the law. But I'm yet to find one that is focused on the constitution, just the constitution itself. So that was my niche. Unless I'm mistaken, there might be someone else. But on what I've already done, because up to I believe mid-March, I was running the first series. It was a 68-part series of the basic understanding of the Constitution. I realized that a lot of people don't really appreciate what the Constitution is about. But then law being so technical, a lot of people tend to not to engage as much as you'd want or you'd expect. But the few that do engage, you can realize that sometimes you see that they really needed the information, and they start appreciating how it then applies to their everyday lives. Because every day, the Constitution, there's a way that it affects our daily life.
So from when did you start the law with Isabella? by the way?
I actually launched it on the 8th of November 2025.
Okay.
And I've been running for the past 4 months.
Okay.
It's been a great learning point even for myself. Like I indicated earlier on, I did study in South Africa, so I'm more acquainted with the South African Constitution. So I was learning as I was teaching. And sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think to myself, is this for real? For the first time when I first learned that the president has the power to dissolve parliament, I thought to myself, how can be an unelected president dissolve an elected National Assembly? And it got me up, sitting on my bed and thinking, wow, do we still want to have this kind of thing in our constitution moving forward if we are going to have the holistic constitutional review?
Okay.
Er,
No, we appreciate the great work that you are doing
er,
as Pitso Podcast. So we want to get closer to why we called you here,
er,
the referendum.
er,
My little knowledge is that there are certain sections of the Constitution which I want you to speak to that cannot be changed by Parliament alone without involving us citizens. So can you talk about that? I always hear lawyers talking about entrenched sections. So can you talk a little bit about that so that we understand?
Maybe let's start with the empowering provision in the Constitution.
Yes.
The one that empowers Parliament to change or amend the Constitution.
Yes.
At Section 89
Okay.
of the Constitution of Botswana.
Yes.
Section 89 basically has 3 ways in terms of which the Constitution may be amended.
Yes.
The ordinary way where Parliament can do it, even without involving Botswana, even without requiring the supermajority or 2/3
Okay.
parliamentary approval.
Yes.
And then there's the second layer, which is the entrenched provisions.
Okay.
We find them in Section 89, subsection 3A.
Okay.
And then there's the third layer, which is the super entrenched provisions,
Okay.
which are in Section 89, subsection 3B.
Yes.
And there is where the Constitution Amendment Bill number 14 of 2025 sits.
The one about the Constitutional
Yes,
Court.
the one about the Constitutional Court. It sits at the amendment that is at Section 89, subsection 3B.
The super entrenched.
The super entrenched.
Where you are required to involve
The public.
the public.
Era.
Okay.
So the Constitution, when the entrenched and the super entrenched are amended, what happens is for the entrenched, Parliament only has to approve it by 2/3 majority,
Okay.
and then it will go to the president, sign it into law, and then life moves on.
Yes.
But the ones in Section 89 3B are the ones where after Parliament has approved the amendment, it now needs to go back to Botswana, to the electorate for the referendum.
Okay.
I need to make it very clear here that if Parliament is unable to pass it by the 2/3 majority, then that's the end of the bill. It cannot even move to the referendum. So that we need to have a very clear before we can even touch on further processes after parliamentary approval.
So Parliament is recently approved, isn't it?
Parliament recently approved the bill.
So the next stage is us.
Referendum, yes.
As non-members of Parliament.
We will be exercising direct democracy.
Okay.
Not representative. Ma parlamente ha ba le ko parlamenteng ya be le representative democracy.
Yes.
But here we'll be exercising democracy directly as the citizens.
So what I hear you to be saying is that citizens also, there are in certain instances where citizens are constitutionally empowered to participate in amending the constitution. Nobody can do it without them.
Okay. Let me try and explain it from this angle.
Yes.
The Constitution is the people's document.
Yes.
The constitution starts first with the people.
Yes.
They exercise what is called constituent power to make the constitution.
Yes.
So this is then when we go to referendum, is the law requiring the citizens as the owners of this document to exercise their sovereign power to make changes in their constitution, especially for bills such as Bill number 14 of 2025, because it goes to the constitutional design.
Okay.
Hey.
No, thank you for that. So can we now that we are clear that citizen constitutionally should participate or have to participate, it's not a favor. It's their constitutional right.
It's a imperative.
It's an imperative.
It is required. Where the law requires it, we cannot run away from it.
Okay, citizens can participate boldly without any fear.
As long as as I was earlier on explaining,
Yes.
Section 89(3)B requires that there be a referendum.
Okay.
And there's no way that it cannot go on.
Okay.
As long as the provision that we are amending falls in Section 89(3)B.
All right. No, thank you very much. Can we discuss what is a referendum? If you can, the types that exist for Botswana, what type of referendum? Because my research talks about 3 types. There's a one that is called a plebiscite. Kana ka Setswana gongwe ga re itlhalose sentle re pato maikutlo. This one, Section 89(3)B.
As the imperative one.
Ga o batwe maikutlo.
The law requires that at the end of it, something needs to be done.
Depending. How kana nya so se thopileng ha ono ka re nyane ke go bata maikutlo hela nna ke akwa. They go where the people say they should go.
So the difference between a referendum and a plebiscite before we discuss the other types of referendums. Like you were saying, the referendum is more imperative. It has legal force. Once the results are out and they say a specific thing, that is what will apply.
Okay.
We cannot run away from that.
Yes.
But the plebiscite is where it's a poll to test the national interest on a particular agenda that government wants to maybe make a determination on. Maybe they want to make a policy of a certain nature and they want to know how much the people supports that. That is when they can go do a plebiscite. But otherwise, it ke patlo maikutlo like you were earlier on explaining.
Maokane ke sa shauti program ya RB1 go re mo buang ya gore ke batla jana and people can
re khona go asasa gore me bontsi ba batho ne ba re ba dumalana kana bontsi ba batho ne ba re ba ganana gore re ka dira kana re ka ska ra dira mme ga gongwe le one le ha isena that legal force.
Yes.
Ha batho ba na le maikutlo a tseneletseng ka gone, it might sway how things actually turn out.
Yes. Okay.
Even though it doesn't have legal force.
So
now we can go to the types of the 3 types of referendum. There's the imperative.
Yes.
That one is the one which has legal force. The result of that referendum must be implemented as the results will indicate.
Okay.
That is the type of Section 89(3)B referendum that we are going to go into in terms of Bill number 14 of 2025. And then there's the national initiative. This one, in certain countries, I think if I'm not mistaken, Switzerland has got something like this, where it's the people who initiate going to referendum. All that is required is to collect a certain number of signatures of the population, and they then force a particular agenda to go into the national agenda for discussion and for decisions and resolutions to be made. So it is first initiated by the people. We don't wait for Parliament to take the decision. It is the people who actually do initiate such a referendum. So far, we don't have that kind of referendum in our jurisdiction. constitution. And then there's the consultative one, and re discuss at the plebiscite, where ke go tsewa maikutlo hela, but it doesn't have the legal force that is similar to the one-year imperative. Yeah.
Yeah, make it our re utuile Botswana gore there are different types of referendum. So ours is imperative.
Is the imperative one.
Kore babusi ba patelesega.
Ba patelesega. If we go to the poll, the referendum, excuse me. If you go to the referendum and Botswana batla ba votile no.
It's a no.
Sorry, it's the end of the bill. It falls. It cannot become law. That is how imperative it is. Ha Botswana ba votile yes, it then goes to the president. He signs it into law. We'll now have the constitutional court established.
The reason why I keep on going back to imperative is so that Botswana appreciates the important and critical role in this process. They cannot stand aloof. They have to play a part and say their views.
I have always, even with general elections, it is my belief that it is not just a right. It's a responsibility.
Yes,
we have a duty to participate and collectively make decisions for ourselves.
Because you are forming a government which for the next 5 years
will be governing how your life goes.
Yes. Okay. Now that we appreciate and understand referendum and the different types, now can we get to how it is conducted? Parliament has passed the bill. I think the years were 50, if I remember well. And then
15 no, 1 absent or abstained.
Yes. So now it means now the process is coming to us. So how from there now what happens?
There is no time frame.
Okay.
So it can be in 2 weeks' time from parliamentary approval. It can be in a few months. But the next step would be for the president to issue a writ. That writ will include the date and the time when the referendum has to be undertaken, and also the matter for which the referendum is being called. The matter being, what is it that we are going to be asked to vote on? And then if it is an amendment of the law as Bill number 14 of 2024 is, then the text of that bill has to be attached to the writ. Then it is sent to the secretary of the Independent Electoral Commission, who is then required. This we will come back to. And it's one of the lessons learned from the 2001 referendum. But ordinarily, the writ should be gazetted, which is not catered for in the law. We'll talk about it later.
I read Kumalo Commission saying it is bad draftsmanship. I will get back
So
to
as
that.
we go along, we are going to address that. But ordinarily, it should be then gazetted so that Motswana Mungana gazetting means now we have published. It's in the open. Everybody should know, because as we've always said in the legal fraternity, we have this thing of saying ignorance of the law is not an excuse, because every time when there's anything that binds you, it's supposed to be published so that you are given notice of what is going to what the position of the law is. So even with the writ, it has to be published in the Government Gazette, and then on the date, then we will go to the poll. The IEC's main job is to make sure that we have our polling stations ready, we have our ballot papers ready. Everything that we would normally get for general elections is there. And then they one of the things the law doesn't impose any statutory or legal requirement on government to educate people or on the technical aspects of the law that they'll be required to vote on.
So whose responsibility is it to, let's say you you want to introduce a constitutional court, like in the current case, rona ha re itse constitutional court we itse lona di-lawyer. So whose responsibility is it? Is it for political parties? Because kind of them they will be divided. They have different positions. Yo mongwe o tla ba re, o re yes ka gore ka gore, yo mongwe a re o re no ka gore, but they don't get into the text of the amendment so that I understand what's happening. So whose responsibility, other than you as an individual taking up that responsibility?
It's our collective responsibility as individuals. We first need to advise ourselves, and then we have our CSOs, our NGOs, we have the political parties, we have Pitso Podcast, we have the Law with Isabella Mathiba platforms. Those are the entities within our societies that can actually take it up and be able to teach Botswana gore kana mme this bill that we are going to go on into the referendum about, this is what it is about. These are the provisions, and this is what it means. This is how they are now, and this is how they are going to change after the constitution has been the amendment has been approved. So if you choose yes, this is what it means. If you choose no, this is what it means.
Today we are just going to talk about general principles, not getting into
the
bill
nitty-gritties.
clause by clause, but we'll keep on picking here and there because our time might not allow us. So now the writ is with the IEC. They are preparing for us to go and vote. So where do the questions come in, so that I know whether I vote yes or no? Who's drafting the questions? I'm asking this because from the experience of 2001, the way questions were crafted was the big issue that led to the postponement. So where do the questions come in?
Earlier on, I indicated that the president issues the writ.
Yes.
And the writ is supposed to have the date and time, as well as the matter for which the referendum is being called. So this matter is the questions.
Is it the questions or the bill itself that was approved by Parliament?
It is the question plus the bill.
Okay.
Earlier on, I said the president issues the writ, which is supposed to have the date and time, the matter for which the poll is being called, the text of the amendment, if it is the referendum is about amending a law.
Okay.
So they go together, all three of them.
Okay.
So the question must be ready by the time the writ is issued.
Okay.
So the office of the president, when they issue the writ, they must have the questions ready. That is how I understand Section 4 as read with Section 5 of the Referendum Act.
Okay.
So the president does have people. He has cabinet. He has the Attorney General. He has all the resources around him to help him to facilitate him in drafting the question or questions. But by the time he issues the writ, the question should be clear and ready for publication.
So is there from experience of other countries, is there a number of questions that can be asked, or it depends on what is before us? Because I've seen the bill, it has a lot of issues. Like let me put it this way: I've heard some people saying there's likely to be one question: do you want a constitutional court or not? So that's why I'm asking about, can we get an idea of the number of questions that we can expect? What will be guiding that?
From a textual interpretation of Section 4, as read with Section 5 of the Referendum Act, it says a question. It talks about matter, not matters. So in my opinion, one question should be sufficient. But as we saw with the 2001 referendum, there were several, I think 6 or 8.
Yes.
So it is possible to have more than one question. But the practicalities of having multiple questions is that if you have 6 different questions in one ballot paper and one voter says yes to 3, no to 3, how are we going to computate the outcome? How are we going to know for sure that every there was a 50 plus 1 majority approval of the referendum if there are differing answers to different questions in one ballot paper?
Okay.
So just the technical part of it, you know how at general elections there will be like BDP, UDC, all that. How gonna lead question is it the question 1, this one answer hilarious, question 2 no, question 3 yes, and then it's four yeses out of 6. Just the computation itself is going to be troublesome.
Isn't the issue or my fear isn't the issue the fact that the establishment of the Constitutional Court also touches other areas,
It does.
like the composition of the Judicial Service Commission. They want to introduce a deputy Chief Justice.
Chief Justice, yes.
Who's not there.
Whom we currently don't have.
So would it be fair to the public to come with one question when you are touching other sections of, let's say, the 2001 referendum? He had a question on the composition of the Judicial Service Commission. Now if I agree with your thinking, or if your thinking is what should go, it means that you are changing the composition of the Judicial Service Commission without me, the voter, having told you whether I want it or not. Is that how? Will that be fair on me as an ordinary citizen?
The thing is,
yes,
you are expected, like I earlier on said, us as citizens are expected to have advised ourselves of what is in the Constitution Amendment Bill itself.
Yes.
So if there's one area of the Constitution Amendment Bill that I don't think I want to say yes to, but everything else I want to say yes to, I can choose to go with no, especially if it is a critical point that I believe I should have been given an opportunity to answer it as a separate question.
Okay.
But like I'm saying, there are the practical difficulties. Not that it cannot be done. We have seen it happen in 2001, multiple questions being asked. But it can get to be a headache. Secondly, it can be challenged in court if the results are not tallying up as one would expect. So I believe, including my textual interpretation of Section 5, which talks about a question, not questions. Somebody else might hold a different view, And 2001 has taught us that it can happen that more than one question is asked. But it might lead to litigation as to what exactly was the result of the referendum, whether people actually did approve it wholesomely with the required threshold of 50 plus 1 majority or not.
And I think as a voter, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a voter. I agree MPs have done their bit and their part. But as a voter, I would prefer the headache of many questions and having to unravel how people voted than having one question, because I think it opens up for people to put in things that maybe you don't like. So what do you think about that?
Let's think about this now in practical terms. Like I've already said, there's the computation of the results. practical challenge.
Yes.
Then there's the second technical challenge. After the multiple questions have been taken, and some of them have not gotten the yes vote, it means those portions of the bill that have not received the yes vote ideally should not come into the bill.
Yes.
But then the law doesn't make provision for the bill to go back to Parliament for that deletion of those that didn't get the yes vote to be done. So one way or the other, the bill will proceed to the president for signing into law.
Yes. I agree. At the beginning, we said that the Constitution is a very critical document. So its amendment, my assessment is, should not be easy for anyone, because you are touching a piece of document that is very
Sacred.
sacred, as you say,
Foundational.
foundational.
Yes.
That is supreme for the country. So
Yes.
now I don't. If I were to make a decision, I won't mind those headaches and technical challenges, because as a voter, I have to vote for everything in there.
Yeah.
But the Judicial Service Commission, when we debate that, I have some people saying currently the president appoints on the basis of what the JSC
Recommendations
has
of the
recommended.
JSC, yes.
But now the current one, it seems like
Hasn't changed much.
it seems like now the president can appoint with or without considering their recommendation. Like I said, we are not getting into clause by clause, but when I hear people talk, some people are saying that.
I can't remember the full details, but my understanding is that the recommendation of the JSC will still take place. The president will not be able to appoint without the JSC's say so or recommendation.
Okay, for now we'll leave it, but as I said, we are going to get in clause by clause, because these are weightier matters.
Yep.
It's a constitution, it's a sacred document. As citizens, it's now our turn. We must. But yes or no.
But then we still need to think of the practical challenges as well.
Yes.
Like I was saying, if all in all, the multiple questions that we have answered show that the electorate has voted and passed the amendment bill. It means they will know, even if certain portions of that bill are not voted for by the majority of the people, it will still be part of the amendment and the law going forward, because there is no provision for the bill to be taken back to Parliament. The Constitution doesn't make provision for that.
Maybe the suggestion by other people that the Constitutional Court should form part of the comprehensive review can provide a solution.
Yes, maybe that's when we do the overhaul of the Constitution. These are some of the things that we might want to actually think about. How do we then deal with this, and then we include it as part of the holistic review, so that when we eventually do establish the Concord, or some of these things that I'm talking about, this particular challenge that I'm speaking to, can actually be addressed in the holistic review, unless we can decide to change Section 89 now before we go to referendum and make provision for this. Just this.
Yes, Section 89 law na ka referendum.
Le yone tlhoka referendum ka boyone. Ke yone mang ke ene ko mang ka nna wa constitutional amendment. You cannot change anything in the Constitution. Even the holistic review of the Constitution, it cannot go on unless we first amend Section 89 to allow for a holistic review. The only time that we can holistically rewrite the Constitution is if there is an overturn of government. That is when the Constitution now becomes nothing. But if we are not in that space, then we need to have a provision in our Constitution that specifically and expressly allows for the Constitution to be rewritten. Because a holistic review and amendment is a rewrite. It's a complete rewrite. And the Constitution as it is now, our Section 89 doesn't have that clause. When we look at the South African example, their interim constitution made provision for the holistic rewrite of their 1996 constitution. The Kenyan constitution as well had to be amended. I believe it was Section 4A, the new amendment, Section 4A of the Kenyan constitution, which brought in the processes that led to the 2010 constitution. So without amending Section 89, at this moment, we cannot even talk about a holistic review.
Yeah, I'm beginning to like Section 89.
It is, and
because it has locked everything.
yes, it does, and
Yes.
it is a good thing because it stops people changing the constitution on a whim. Yeah.
So, going back to my earlier question, there are those who could to avoid. I'm trying to us to find a solution to the technical problems that you are talking about,
Yeah.
of many questions. There are those who suggest that let the establishment of constitutional court come as recommendations from the holistic or the comprehensive review, even though you said Section 89 does not allow, because it will not be clouded with other issues, or other issues will not find themselves. Like yona composition of Judicial Service Commission, kana ona le yone the big issue ya gore now you are removing. Some people even saying now you are killing the High Court and the Court of Appeal because you are taking away their powers.
It's going to have direct
Yes.
or as a court of first instance
Yes.
to deal with constitutional
So I expect a question like that. So, but if there is a recommendation from like in the Butalo Commission that about the Constitutional Court, you can establish it without touching the Judicial Service Commission, or because once you put in many things in the pot, it is going to spoil everything. I don't know whether my question is making sense.
It does make sense. And initially, I had thought before I actually realized that, especially the technical or the practical challenges, I had thought that it would be best to ask provision by provision.
Yes, that's what I expect.
But then, like I was saying, the answers are going to make it difficult to determine what actually was the vote.
So if it can't be changed, not the main thing for me is, as a citizen, my voice must be heard in every clause.
Your voice was heard when your MP was debating in Parliament. Representative democracy. The expectation is that when a bill, whether it's the Constitution Amendment Bill or any other law, the period when it is published in the Government Gazette, for those 30 days, that is when you as Motswana are supposed to go to your MP and say, I'm seeing the government is looking to make this law or to change the Constitution in this way. These are my thoughts about it. When you do your debate, please touch on 1, 2, 3.
But to be fair to...
Because for everybody, each and everyone's voice to be heard, it's not going to be practical. It's a practical reality that is just going to be difficult. That is why we're democracy, to say the majority have decided this. Because if each and every one of us were to have a say, we'll never be able to move forward.
Hey, I hear you, but to be fair to us voters, how many people debated the bill? Honestly.
Yeah, that is
so
what happened.
You can't say my member of parliament.
No, I'm also from Gaborone North, so my MP wasn't able to put in their debate.
And this is my only chance as a voter to speak for myself. So, we are discussing questions. Now, as a voter, I expect every clause. What I'll change, like said, the constitutional court. But what I'll change, what I'll Judicial Service Commission.
Ker.
Ha ke
No,
tsole-
I get but provision by provision it might be difficult. It's a theme by theme, not clause by clause. Theme is in a Judicial Service Commission. Theme as in the Bill of Rights challenges
Yes.
Section 18, and then the composition of the National Assembly or who qualifies to be a member of Parliament. The issues around the outcomes of the elections. Those can be taken as themes instead of each clause having its own question. That is possible. We have seen it happen at 2001 referendum. It can still happen.
And I like the it's a nice problem that you are having.
Yeah.
This challenge show that this is sacred. Don't just touch.
I'm actually running what I call the thinking labs. And these are the type of engagements and debates that I would want to see Botswana going into.
Okay.
It's part of the constitutional literacy program that I'm running.
Okay.
So I started it in about 2 weeks back, two weeks back, yes. So the thinking labs is where we are supposed to be having this type of dialogues.
Okay, so we'll you've answered my next question, because I was going to ask, seeing the critical nature of the questions. First, the number. Your interpretation is that
Textual interpretation.
yes, it's one.
Yeah.
Number lay person's interpretation is that I want to vote for every clause, like members of parliament do. Yeah, they go clause by clause.
They debate clause by clause,
Eh.
but when they vote just once.
But if a member of parliament raises an issue, because in my other life as a journalist, I used to cover parliament.
Yep.
If a member of parliament raises an issue on a particular clause, it's debated, and if there were no requests for amendments, they can group them. But the point I'm trying to make is, given the critical nature of questions, the number, or whether they should be multiple, how does voter education come in? How is it that now nobody has the responsibility? You've answered it, but I'm just asking it for emphasis, that we might be lacking something, that we can't participate in this critical exercise without knowledge. Yes.
One of the things that the opposition has been pushing for is the enactment of the Constitution Review Act.
Okay.
Yes. Maybe as part of our holistic review, it's something that we could put in there, that when we do a holistic review or an amendment of the Constitution, public participation must include civic education on the technical aspects of whatever law we are trying to amend. Yeah. It's one of those things that we might want to think about when we do the holistic review of the Constitution.
We've been talking about the Kumalo Commission. It has a long title. Let me use yours. It has a very long title: Report on the Presidential Commission into the X eras. Hey, it's a tongue twister. So what I'm trying to say is, as voters, it's triple price of a fat cake. Get yourself this report and know what happened in 2001. So we are going to get into that from your reading of the commission. What lessons? Because this commission came about because the 2001 referendum was postponed, because one organization raised issues about the defective questions. And then it was for the first time that we saw this Attorney General taking his government to court.
Yeah.
Although we hear the issue was settled out of court. But the point is, we have an experience of the 2000 referendum, which we want to discuss.
Yeah.
What can we learn from that? What can we avoid? What can we do right?
Yeah.
Emma.
Yes, I have read about the 2001 referendum and what I would like to call a comedy of errors. But The factual backgrounds, if I can just give it in short, is that a writ was issued with, I think, 8 questions, and the text of the amendment annexed to the writ. What happened is the secretary of the IEC failed to even publicize it, and even the commissioner, the Kumalo, the one-man commission, did find out that the law has been badly drafted. It does not cater for a publication of the writ of referendum. It talks about the writ of elections, for general elections and for by-elections. But there's no mention of referendums in Section 34 of the Electoral Act. Neither is there any mention of the writ being gazetted in the Referendum Act itself, at Section 5, where it talks about the writ being issued. So my personal opinion regarding the outcome of the commission is that the secretary then of the IEC was unfairly treated, in that he was being expected to implement something that was not clear in law. The law operates with certainty. The law operates with procedure. Administrative law requires that for me to do something, the law must have given me that power to start off with. So on that note, the fact that Section 34 doesn't have the provision for publication, which is still the case even up to date, it was unfair, and the law needs to be amended as a matter of urgency so that this does not repeat going forward.
So in 25 years, we haven't yet corrected the bad draftsmanship that...
We haven't.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And then there's also the issue of the questions. Who is supposed to have drafted the questions? Well, earlier on, I said when the writ is issued, the questions should be ready. It's part of the 3 legs that I talked through. It must have the date and time, the matter for which it is the referendum is being called, and then there's the text of the amendment bill itself. So the matter should be settled before the writ is even issued. The president, at the time of issuing the writ, should have crafted the questions or the question, and he has the resources around him, all including cabinet. He can get them to facilitate the crafting, but as at the time of issuing the writ, the question must be clear. The question must be ready.
You keep on talking about the matter, but it seems like there are many matters in this bill that we need to vote for.
To determine, yes.
To determine and agree whether we want them changed or not. So the lessons learned is that the law should be clear, the process should be clear on what happens to the writ, who should publish it. So it was not clear, still not clear even now.
Yeah.
The questions, we talked a lot about questions. It's still not clear. It says you're saying your text,
my textual interpretation
is that one question.
It says a question. It says matter, not matters.
Yes.
So I am a believer that the law is usually very clear. When you read it the first time and the text is clear, then there's no need for further purposive interpretation.
Yes.
Just on the text, you can determine what the intention of the legislature was in drafting a particular provision.
Yes.
Yeah.
The purpose of this session today is just to get people thinking, especially as citizens, whether it would be given a good deal or raw deal by one question or many questions. It's for them to determine. Here we are just initiating discussion and debate,
discourse,
so that we talk about these things. We are going towards the close. So far, I've enjoyed, I've learned. Do you have any last words as we close?
Yes, I run the law with Isabella Mathiba on Facebook.
Yes.
I have the platform and other social media platforms as well, on TikTok, on Threads, on Instagram. They can follow the page on any of those. I'm currently running the thinking labs where I'm getting people to now start thinking and debating some of these issues and comparing with other jurisdictions, especially the Constitution of South Africa and the Kenyan one, because they are the most advanced in the African continent. And then one of the things that I'm also thinking is that before the writ of referendum for bill number 14 of 2025 is issued, we should have a get-together, discuss some kind of workshop where we can explain the technical aspects of the bill so that people, when they vote, they know exactly what is it that they will be voting for. Yeah. It's work in progress. I'll keep my followers updated as to the arrangements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want you to talk to voters,
Yeah.
as voters. Or your turn has come. What can you tell them? We've mentioned a bit of this and that ignorance of the law cannot
not an
excuse them. So what do you want to tell them to get ready for the referendum that we are sure it's coming?
Understand what the referendum, the law seeks to do, the amendment bill seeks to do. All the clauses that we have been discussing earlier on, what is currently happening? What is the position of the law right now before the law is changed? And how is this bill going to change the law once we have voted for it? So once we know those aspects, then we will be able to determine whether we are voting no or yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mama Tiba. We have a hot potato in our hands. I believe we need more of these discussions to understand what is expected of us, what the law says, different angles.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate your feedback and your educating us, members of the public. We've come to the end of our episode. It was enjoyable. We appreciate, like I say, the input of our guest. Viewers, we thank you for always watching Pitso Podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you have not done so already. Like, share, and watch some more. Thank you very much.